Seikane Girls Academy is an elite all-girls school for noble families. In a surprising move, the school decided to bring in a commoner as a reference sample of ordinary life, and that person was Kaburizaka Kimido, who came from a regular high school. The students at Seikane were extremely curious and excited to ask Kimido all kinds of questions. Before all of this, Kimido had been living a normal high school life. That day, Eri asked him, like usual, to grab some tea from the cafeteria. But as soon as Kimido stepped out of his classroom, a group of muscular men suddenly rushed toward him. They grabbed him, tied him up, and tossed him into a car. While inside, the men flexed their muscles in front of him, clearly showing off for some reason. Kimido had no idea what was going on. Eventually, they threw him out of the car in front of the gates of Seikane Girls Academy. A maid named Miyuki greeted him politely and thanked him for cooperating. She explained that they did not want to cause a scene, which was why they used that unusual method to bring him there. Miyuki quickly untied him. Kimido was understandably upset and said they had gone way too far. He asked where he was and who all these people were. Miyuki brushed off his reaction, saying that the way he greeted people really did make him sound like a commoner, and to her, that kind of attitude was rude. She told him she would explain everything and asked him to follow her. As they walked, Miyuki introduced herself and explained that this was a school exclusively for daughters of noble families. It focused on teaching them the traditional manners and customs of classic Japanese women. The existence of the school was a well-guarded secret from the general public. She also told Kimido that the school was called Seikane Girls Academy, and starting that day, he would be attending it. Miyuki said that all the arrangements had already been made and even Kimido's parents had given their approval. Kimido was confused and asked why he had been chosen, but Miyuki ignored the question and simply told him to keep following her. She went on to say that Seikane was a school strictly for noble women, so men were never allowed. Every single student and staff member there was female, and no exceptions had ever been made. However, recently, the school had been facing a few issues. Miyuki brought Kimido to meet the principal, Sayuri. Sayuri introduced herself and apologized if Miyuki had treated him roughly. She then asked Miyuki to apologize directly to Kimido. Miyuki did apologize, although it was pretty clear she did not mean it sincerely. Kimido then asked what the actual problem at the school was. Miyuki explained that a lot of students who graduated from Seikane ended up struggling after entering the real world. Even though they came from privileged backgrounds, they were not used to interacting with people outside of their bubble. The shock of dealing with such different lifestyles sometimes led them to odd behavior, like becoming obsessed with online games. Kimido was confused about why something like that would even be considered a serious issue. Siguri said that some people had recently suggested the school should take action to prevent the same thing from happening to future graduates. Miyuki added that after discussing the best way to keep the school's traditions intact while still preparing students for the outside world, they decided to bring in a commoner. By inviting someone like Kimido to live among them at school, the hope was that the students would slowly get used to interacting with people from different backgrounds. On top of that, the students had never really been around the opposite sex, which had turned into a big problem on its own. Siguri believed that this would solve everything. Kimido said he understood the situation, but he was confused about why he had been chosen to be the commoner sample. Miyuki explained that Kimido was just an ordinary high school student from the top public school in the prefecture. His height, weight, and looks were all average, and he was known as a kind person. Back in middle school, he had even been nicknamed Sebastian. Because of that, Miyuki said he was basically the perfect example of a commoner. However, according to Miyuki, there was one exceptional quality that made Kimido stand out from everyone else. He was supposedly gay, had a muscle fetish, and was attracted to handsome, muscular men. Kimido was shocked to hear that and insisted that he did not have a muscle fetish at all. Miyuki asked if she was wrong because as far as she knew, Kimido never interacted with any girls and always spent time around other boys. That information had come from Kimido's childhood friend, Eri. Kimido explained that Miyuki had misunderstood him and that he was still straight. Siguri commented that this could be a problem, and Miyuki even warned that it might turn into a serious issue. Kimido asked why that would be. Miyuki explained that if he really was not into muscles, and for the sake of protecting the school's secret, he would have to spend the rest of his life in a place that did not exist on any map. And if he insisted on staying at that school, he would need to be medically neutered in order to protect the purity of the female students. Hearing that, Kimido had no choice but to declare that he loved well-built muscles. Miyuki was surprised to discover that side of him, but she seemed relieved. She informed him that his class would be Class 1. Sayuri reminded him that none of the students at the school had ever interacted with any boys before, so she asked him to be careful and not do anything too extreme. Kimido then walked into his class and he was stunned to see all the students standing in formation, waiting for him. One of the girls introduced herself as the class president of Class 1. Her name was Reiko. She said that she and her classmates had been waiting for Kimido's arrival. The girls greeted him politely, and Kimido introduced himself in return. When they heard Kimido refer to himself using the word "or," they were surprised to learn that commoners talk like that. Suddenly, Kimido's phone rang. The students were confused and asked what the sound was. Miyuki stepped in to calm them down and explained that the object making that noise was called a cell phone, also known as a smartphone. None of the girls had ever seen one before. Miyuki explained that a cell phone was a small, portable telephone commonly used by commoners. The students immediately crowded around to take a closer look at Kimido's phone. They had no idea that such a thin, compact device could be used to make phone calls. Some of them even asked to hold it themselves. They could not believe that Kimido was so used to using something so amazing, and they said commoners were truly incredible. Reiko stepped in and told everyone to give the phone back to Kimido. But they were so flustered they had no idea what to do. Just imagining holding it made their hearts feel like they were going to stop. They felt that way because none of them had ever interacted with a boy before. Reiko finally gathered her courage and returned the phone to Kimido herself. She thanked him for letting them see it. Then all of a sudden, Reiko remembered something she had forgotten. She needed to make him a thank you card right away. Sumire had already prepared some paper and a pen for Reiko to use. Reiko quickly wrote down a thank you card, then tied it with a ribbon, placed it inside the gift box, decorated it with flowers and another ribbon, and finally put the box in a bag before handing it to Kimido. Seeing all of that, Reiko's friends praised her for being thoughtful and always caring. Kimido thanked her and accepted the gift. But since Reiko was a little nervous, she accidentally lost her balance and fell forward. Luckily, Kimido managed to catch her in time. Reiko was so overwhelmed that she ended up fainting, which made all her friends panic. Suddenly, a girl named Aika came into the classroom and immediately pulled Kimido outside. Kimido asked her why she dragged him out. Without wasting time, Aika pushed him and tried to kiss him. She called Kimido a commoner and asked him to let her kiss him. As Aika moved her face closer to his, Kimido pushed her away and asked what she was doing. Aika explained that if she kissed a commoner, her wish would come true, so she believed she needed to kiss Kimido to make her dream a reality. Kimido told her that her wish would not come true just by doing that. Aika insisted she had heard about it from one of her upperclassmen. Kimido asked her whom she trusted more, an upperclassman who never left her room or a commoner like him. Aika let go of him and admitted that she did not really believe it either. She called Kimido a dumb commoner, but Kimido shot back that she was the one being dumb for thinking a kiss could make dreams come true. Aika responded by saying she did not actually believe it. Just messing around, Kimido joked that if she spun in a circle and barked, then her dream would come true. To his surprise, Aika actually believed him and did it right away. Kimido could barely believe what he had just witnessed. Right then, Reiko and her friends showed up to apologize to Kimido. Reiko explained that she and the others were truly worried about him, so they came looking. They were shocked to see Kimido being pulled away like that by Aika. Reiko asked what he and Aika were doing. When she called out to Aika suddenly ran away. Reiko mentioned that Aika never really talked to them, so maybe there was something they did not know about her. Later, Miyuki escorted Kimido to a dorm that would be his new place to live. She even told him there was a private room made just for him. The room had been renovated and Miyuki was confident that Kimido would be satisfied. To his surprise, the room was made to look exactly like his bedroom back home. Miyuki explained that the total costs, including special shipping, renovation, and other expenses to keep everything confidential, was around 100 million yen. Kimido was shocked when he heard that. Miyuki reassured him that she believed he would feel comfortable there. Suddenly reminded of Miyuki's earlier threat about his supposed muscle fetish, Kimido tore up his collection of 5 pictures. That made Miyuki suspicious and wonder if Kimido had been lying about his muscle fetish. To keep up the act, Kimido quickly pretended to be into muscular male figures. Miyuki then told him that from now on, she would be his personal maid. At this school, every student had their own maid to take care of them, so Miyuki would be looking after him from now on. She also informed Kimido that the introduction ceremony would begin at 3 p.m. and asked him to stay in his room and rest until then. All of a sudden, Aika barged into Kimido's room and accused him of lying. She said she had done it 58 times, but her wish still had not come true. Kimido replied by reminding her that he only said to do it 3 times. Aika said that Kimido had tricked her, but Kimido told her that she was the one who did that in the first place. Besides, he did not expect her to do something so ridiculous. Aika was shocked when she saw everything inside Kimito's room since she had never seen any of it before. Kimito explained that all of those things belonged to commoners. That got Aika thinking that maybe this was the key to getting her wish granted. She asked Kimito if learning about commoners would help make her wish come true. What she really wanted was to be popular in class. She asked if there was something wrong with that wish. According to Kimito, she did not need to go through all this just to make friends. If she could act like her normal self, her wish would come true naturally. Arika said that just being normal would not help her get what she wanted. But Kimito pointed out that if she could talk to him like this, then there was nothing wrong with her. Aika admitted that she was not good at lying, so she always said whatever was on her mind. She was convinced that people would not like her for that, and she was scared of being disliked. That was why she kept her distance from her classmates. She confessed that she really wanted to be friends with them. She hated being alone. She wanted to talk to her classmates and enjoy high school life with them. Until now, she had been spending her breaks pretending to sleep and rushing home just to avoid everyone. But she admitted that she did not want to keep living like that anymore. Arika was surprised at herself for suddenly saying all of that to a commoner like Kimito. Kimito let her borrow his game console. Arika was stunned the moment she turned it on. She could not even deny it. Commoner games were amazing. She asked Kimito to teach her how to become a commoner. She wanted to learn all about commoner culture. Arika said that commoners were starting to become popular at school. At the very least, if she knew a little about commoner culture, she was sure her wish would come true. She would become popular at school. That was why she asked Kimito to teach her everything there was to know about being a commoner. That way, she could become a commoner master and everyone in class would want to hang out with her. Arika even made up her mind to start a commoner club with her and Kimito as the only members for now. She was so fired up and said that she and Kimito would do all kinds of awesome club activities together. Kimito agreed and Arika was thrilled. She kicked off her club activities with her first mission, beating the game on Kimito's console. Miyuki woke Kimito up in the morning. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see her and asked why she had come into his room. Miyuki reminded him that she was the maid assigned to take care of him, so waking him up was part of her job. Without hesitation, she began to take off his t-shirt, which immediately startled him. Not long after, she also pulled down his pants. Kimito quickly protested, saying that was going way too far, and he could take care of it himself. Miyuki, however, insisted that it was her duty as a maid of Seiken. To her, Kimito was just a commoner, boring with a muscle fetish and perverted. That moment made Kimito realize that if he did not keep acting like he was into guys, there was no way he could survive in that place. Meanwhile, Reiko had already arrived at her classroom and was greeted by her friends. Back with Kimito, Miyuki asked him to enter through the back door instead of the front, since going in through the front would definitely cause a scene among the students. As he opened the door, he accidentally bumped into Aika. She asked what he was doing there. Unexpectedly, a crowd of students had gathered in the hallway, all talking about Kimito. Miyuki pointed out a better route for him to take, and Aika decided to follow. While walking together, Kimito mentioned that he finally understood why Aika often used that entrance. Aika asked why someone as popular as Kimito would even consider using it, then started wondering whether using that door might make her popular too. Aika reminded him that the Commoner Club activities would start that day. All that time, Kimito had been feeling uncomfortable because the maids kept following him around. He said that as a commoner, he was not used to having maids. Aika was surprised and immediately jotted it down in her notebook. Kimito offered to tell her everything about how commoners live as long as she would tell him what life was like at Seiken Academy. Aika said that all the complicated stuff would be explained by Reiko, since she was the student council president. Kimito asked why Aika could not just do it instead. Aika was surprised and asked why he would choose her over Reiko. Kimito said it was because Aika did not look like a noble at all, while Reiko was so beautiful that she seemed to have a whole aura of her own. To him, Reiko felt like she was from another world, and that made him nervous, unlike how he felt around Aika. Aika immediately smacked him, called him an idiot, and told him to stay away from her. As they kept walking, Reiko suddenly showed up and said she had been looking all over for Kimito. She was really happy to see him. She also greeted Aika, but as usual, Aika stayed silent. Reiko then asked Kimito if she could have a moment of his time after school. Kimito agreed, which made Reiko even more excited. She explained that she and her friends were planning a welcome party for him. They would all be waiting for him in the auditorium, and she even invited Aika before quickly walking away. Reiko then wondered if she had done something wrong to make Aika so upset. Kimito realized that Aika tended to get shy in situations like that. Reiko was definitely an outstanding student. She was great at English, skilled at flower arranging, and even her friends admired her for how beautiful her arrangements looked. On top of that, she was also amazing at the long jump. Then came Kimito's turn. He performed exceptionally well, surprising everyone. No one expected him to jump that far, and the students started praising him for how impressive he was. When it was Aika's turn, she ended up falling during her jump, and Reiko showed genuine concern for her. After gym class, Kimito walked through the halls surrounded by Reiko and her friends. Reiko complimented him, saying she could not even imagine jumping like that. Kaa commented that guys really were built differently, and Mizuho said she could not even land as smoothly as he had. Kimito then asked where she had gone. The others assumed he was referring to Aika. Kimito explained that commoners usually use pronouns when referring to people, unlike nobles who tend to address others directly by name. Reiko asked if Kimito and Aika had talked that morning and mentioned that it seemed like the two of them were pretty close. Reiko guessed that maybe something was wrong with her and the others, since Aika had not wanted to talk to them at all. Kimito wondered if it would be okay to tell them that Aika just did not want to be disliked by Reiko and the rest. He eventually said that Aika might have her own reasons, and he asked them not to hate her for it. Reiko replied by asking why they would hate Aika in the first place. They had not done anything to upset her, but they were really glad Kimito told them that. That way they could try to become good friends with her. The other girls agreed and said they were sure it would work out, and they were willing to try. Later, Reiko and the others took Kimito to the school restaurant. Kimito was stunned by how fancy the place was. Every student there stared at him, watching his every move. At that moment, Kimito had become the center of everyone's attention. When he looked at the menu, he could not understand anything written on it. Reiko asked what he wanted to order. Kimito said he wanted Japanese food, so Reiko and the others decided to order the same thing. To everyone's surprise, what got served was instant cup noodles. Miyuki was the one who brought them out, thinking instant noodles were a staple food for commoners. Kimito told her that commoners did not eat that every day. When Miyuki asked if Kimito was refusing the food, Reiko suddenly jumped in and asked if instant cup noodles were actually food, since they smelled so different. Kimito was surprised that Reiko had no idea what they were. He asked if she at least knew what ramen was, but she just said she thought she had heard of it before. Kimito explained that instant cup noodles were a simple version of ramen. You just add hot water, and they are ready to eat. Reiko and the others were shocked to learn that all it took was hot water to make it. They had never thought of that before, and they were confused about why the container had so much writing on it. Some of them even compared it to old Imari porcelain that also had decorative writing. Kimito told them that sometimes commoners ate that kind of food. When Reiko opened hers, she was amazed that it was actual food and even came with seasoning packets. Mizuho was curious about how it worked and how just adding hot water could change its form. Kimito offered to let them try it. Reiko encouraged everyone to eat the cup noodles. Reiko asked Miyuki to hand out the noodles to the rest of the class. She said porcelain bowls were not worthy of holding the cup noodle treasure Kimito had shared with them, and told her to serve it on their best plates instead. Once the noodles had been passed around, the students grew curious about how it would taste, since the smell was so pleasant. Kimito was confused because he did not think the flavor was anything special. Reiko thanked Kimito and invited everyone to start eating. To Kimito's surprise, they all said it was absolutely delicious. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. For Reiko, it was an experience like nothing she had ever had before. She said she never knew a food like that even existed, and she would remember it for the rest of her life. Kimito could not believe how a simple meal could cause such a fuss. Reiko brought Kimito to his welcome party. Kimito felt happy and thanked Reiko for it. Reiko said she was just glad she got to organize something like that. Then she invited her friends to raise their glasses for Kimito as the new transfer student. The welcome party was incredibly fancy, complete with a violin performance and dancing. Reiko asked if something was wrong with the party, but Kimito said he was just impressed that she could pull off something like that. Reiko told him that he was the impressive one, surrounded by a world they had never known before. She felt that Kimito had opened her eyes to a completely different perspective, and she was genuinely happy to be praised by someone like him. Reiko then invited Kimito to dance. Kimito then agreed to give it a try and asked her to show him how. Reiko happily accepted. She was clearly nervous as they got started. At first, Kimito felt like he might be able to pull it off, but as they continued, their movements got faster and they began spinning around wildly. Reiko assumed it was some kind of innovative dance style and figured it must be how commoners danced. Eventually, she started to feel dizzy and lost her grip. Kimido caught her just as the music ended. The other students burst into applause at their performance. Later that evening, Aika came to Kimido's room, clearly annoyed because she had been waiting for a long time. Kimido explained that Reiko and the others had taken him to the welcome party and then asked if Aika was supposed to attend as well. Aika insisted that Kimido tell her everything he knew about commoners for their club activities. Kimido asked for a moment to think about what kind of things commoners usually did. While he was thinking, Aika browsed through his bookshelf and asked what kind of books those were. Kimido told her they were comic books. She picked up one titled Avatar Tonfa, and Kimido was surprised that she had never heard of it. When she opened the book, she asked how to read it. Kimido was even more surprised that she did not know how to follow the panels. He explained that it was read from right to left, top to bottom. Arika started reading it and seemed to get into it quickly. She ended up reading more than just one volume. After a while, Kimido asked what she thought of the comic. Arika admitted that she was shocked and asked why Kimido had never told her about it before, about how all high schoolers among commoners were apparently paranormal, like in the comic. Kimido started to realize how naive Arika really was. He figured she probably believed everything she had read in the comic. Arika declared that she was going to become a paranormal too. If commoners could do it, then there was no way a noblewoman like her could not. Kimido could not believe she actually took the story seriously. Aika went on to say she would show her avatar to the other students, and then everyone would admire her, and she would become popular. She even added that even if she became the most popular girl in class, she would still talk to Kimido. Kimido figured she might need to start practicing, though not anything straight out of a comic. He taught her a simple move for stopping time, and told her to give it a shot. Once Aika performed the move, Kimido pretended to freeze so she would think it had worked. Arika was thrilled, thinking she had actually done it. She even showed her underwear in front of Kimido, completely convinced he could not see anything. Then she decided she wanted to write Ichijinsha on his forehead, but instead she suddenly leaned in as if she was about to kiss him. Just as her face got close, Kimido spat out water and Aika immediately smacked him. Kimido played dumb and pretended not to understand why his cheek was hurting. Aika concluded that maybe there was a time limit on how long she could stop time and she needed to experiment a bit more. Out of the blue, Kimido asked what Ichijinsha even meant. Aika was shocked and asked how he knew what she was planning to write. Kimido admitted that it had all been an act and apologized. That night, Reiko was soaking in the hot spring when she unexpectedly ran into Kimido. Kimido was stunned by the sight of Reiko's figure. He immediately closed the door, apologized, and left. Reiko then said that she had to become Kimido's wife since he had seen her body. The next day in class, Reiko could not stop thinking about what happened the night before. Meanwhile, Kimido assumed that Reiko had already moved on and was acting like nothing ever happened. During the lesson, the teacher asked everyone to pair up and start a conversation. Kimido ended up with Reiko and invited her to begin. When Kimido started with the words, "you know," Reiko misheard it as "you now," which means engagement. She responded by saying it was a little too soon for them, but getting engaged and leaving school was totally normal back in her grandmother's time. Kimido had no idea what she was talking about. Reiko asked him to continue what he was trying to say. When Kimido said waiting for, she misheard it again, this time as wedding. Reiko then said she was ready to get married right away. She added that she could throw together an amazing ceremony that would make everyone happy, even if everything happened super fast. Without realizing it, Reiko started tearing a piece of paper out of her notebook and folded it into an origami tower. When she saw the word travel written on it, she asked Kimido where they should go for their trip, somewhere local or maybe abroad. The teacher looked completely confused, wondering what on earth was going on with Reiko. That day, a new maid was being briefed by her senior. Her assignment was to take care of Hakua, and unlike the other girls, taking care of her came with some special rules. It turned out Hakua could not dress herself, and that responsibility fell completely to the maid. Even her meals were scheduled in advance for the entire week, and she would not eat anything outside of that plan. The new maid was immediately taken to meet Hakua. Meanwhile, Miyuki was waking Kimido up that morning. As always, she said she hoped he would not wake up again. Then she asked how he was doing and if he had gotten used to living there. Kimido said that at that point, he still was not used to it. Suddenly, his mother sent him a message asking how he was and mentioning a hot spring called Yahoo. Kimido had no idea what the message meant. Miyuki explained that as a thank you gift for agreeing to be the commoner sample, Kimido's house was undergoing major renovations. Their bathroom had even been turned into a hot spring. His whole family was loving it. Kimino could not believe it. To him, it felt like his family had sold him off in exchange for a fancy bath. Miyuki reminded him that what mattered most was that his family would not worry. She told him to reply to the message right away. Before he could, Miyuki grabbed his phone and typed out a reply herself. Fortunately, Kimino managed to snatch the phone back in time and deleted the strange message. He was confused why Miyuki had replied without asking him first. Later, while eating at the school cafeteria, Kimino noticed that the students around him were all staring. He could not find peace anywhere. During a break in the back garden, Kimino replied to his mother saying he was starting to get used to the place. Then he saw a girl drawing on the wall. Curious, he wondered if she was also a student there. Her name was Hakua. Kimino was about to give her a little scolding when, out of nowhere, Hakua took off her clothes and tossed them aside. He quickly stopped her and handed her clothes back. Just then, two students passed by nearby and Kimino panicked. Worried that they might get the wrong idea, he brought Hakua to her room as fast as he could. Once there, he told her to put her clothes back on. But Hakua suddenly asked if Kimino had been the one who undressed her. He quickly denied it and told her she had taken off her own clothes. Hakua then asked why she would even do something like that. Kimino, of course, had no answer and told her again to get dressed. That was when Hakua said she could not do it because she did not know how to dress herself. So Kimino ended up helping her get dressed. Afterward, they introduced themselves to each other. Hakua seemed unfamiliar with his name, so Kimino asked if she had attended the introduction ceremony for the commoner sample. Hakua told him that she had been locked away in her lab for the past 2 days. Suddenly, Hakua's stomach growled. She explained it was a warning signal for low blood sugar. Kimino figured that meant she was hungry. He quickly made her some instant ramen, the kind of food commoners usually ate. But he told her this was not just any ramen, it was his special recipe, cold ramen with chili oil. Hakua said she could not eat it. So Kimino took the initiative to feed her himself and encouraged her to give it a try. She took a bite and ended up finishing the entire bowl. Once she was done eating, Kimino asked her to return to her room. But then, out of nowhere, Hakua fell asleep on the floor. Kimino tried to wake her up. Unexpectedly, Hakua jumped up, started scribbling something on the desk, and then began taking off her clothes again, one piece at a time. At that exact moment, Aika was on her way to Kimino's room for their club activity. But what she saw when she opened the door was completely shocking. Kimino quickly tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding and not what it looked like. Arika immediately yelled and called Kimino a pervert. After Hakua regained consciousness, Kimino escorted her back to her lab. Once they arrived, one of Hakua's maids, Sakamori, thanked Kimino. She pulled out a digital camera, which turned out to be used for recording what Hakua had written on the statue earlier, so she planned to head to the courtyard to take a picture of it. Kimino had no idea what that was all about. Sakamori then explained that Hakua was globally involved in fields like mathematics and industry, and at the time, many of the world's top business figures were waiting for her conclusions. Sakamori also mentioned that the building was funded by the profits from Hakua's own patent rights. She added that it was time for Hakua to eat. Kimino replied that he had already fed her. Sakamori was shocked when she heard that Kimino had taken care of Hakua's meal. Kimino asked if he had done something wrong. Sakamori said it was fine and asked what kind of food he had given her. Kimino told her that he had made instant ramen for Hakua. Sakamori looked nervous and thanked Kimino for taking care of her. When Kimino was about to leave, Hakua grabbed his hand and asked him to stay. Sakamori was so surprised by what she heard that she collapsed to the floor. Kimino gently patted Hakua's head and told her to come visit him again sometime. Hakua let go of his hand and did as he asked. After that, Kimino left. That night, Sakamori told the other maids about how shocked she was by Hakua's behavior. The Hakua they knew would not even wear underwear if left alone. She had never shown interest in anything outside of academics. Sakamori even mentioned how Hakua had held on to Kimino's arm and asked him not to leave. The other maids could hardly believe what they were hearing. Sakamori also said that Hakua had eaten before going home. A new maid asked if Hakua's meals were not supposed to follow a strict schedule and that the Wednesday menu should have been gratin with clams. She wondered if what Kimino gave her matched that. Sakamori explained that Hakua actually ate instant ramen. The maids were surprised and questioned whether Hakua had made an exception. While they were still unsure if Hakua had feelings for Kimino, they reminded themselves that despite how she looked, she was still a 14-year-old girl. That day, there was a flower arrangement class. Kimino was not sure if he could manage it, but Reiko reassured him that everything would be fine. She even offered to help and told him not to hesitate to ask her anything. Suddenly, a girl carrying a katana approached Kimito. Her name was Karen. When a bug flew near her, she screamed and swung her sword to chase it away. The students around her misunderstood and assumed she had just called a commoner a bug. They started whispering that Karen was terrifying. Kimito tried to explain that she was not referring to him as a bug, but Karen cut him off and confirmed it. Kimito asked who this girl even was. Karen introduced herself and said she was going to punish him. Reiko became worried and Aika told Kimito to run. Karen slammed her katana to the floor, which caused leaves to scatter everywhere. Karen struck the ground again, all while shouting that Kimito was a filthy insect and a trash pond. She then performed a sword technique that created a whirlwind effect. To everyone's shock, the katana's force ended up shredding the clothes of all the nearby students. They screamed as their clothes vanished instantly. Kimito saw what happened and assumed it was the result of that sword move. Karen, however, blamed Kimito for the indecent scene. Moments later, his own clothes were torn, causing all the students to scream in shock when they saw his body. Karen raised her sword and called Kimito a shameless man ready to stab him. Since Karen refused to stop, Kimito had no choice but to stop her by force. Kimito braced himself as Karen launched her attack. Unexpectedly, his pants tore open, leaving him completely exposed right in front of Karen's face. The sight almost made Karen faint. She then asked how strong Kimito was compared to other commoners. Kimito said he might actually be the weakest of them all, which made Karen feel like the technique she had worked so hard to develop was completely wasted on someone so weak. But Kimito praised her technique, saying it was incredible, and admitted that he was not actually the weakest. Karen refused to accept that and demanded a rematch. Just as she was about to lift her katana again, her outfit suddenly tore apart. She was confused, especially since she had not seen Kimito make a move. According to Kimito, it might have been a delayed effect of her own technique. Karen could not believe that someone who claimed to be the weakest was actually this terrifying. Kimito insisted he had not done anything at all, that it was all Karen's doing. That was when Karen realized they were on completely different levels. After that, she accepted Kimito as her master since he had defeated her. Kimito was confused and called her a wild beast. Karen warned him that if he turned out to be weaker than her, she would not hold back against him. Kimito said she was treating her own master like some kind of demon world dragon. Karen calmly said that Kimito could do anything he wanted to her. The next day, while Kimito was walking through the school hallway, the other students were gossiping about him. They could not believe he had somehow managed to make Karen serve him. Adika later visited Kimito in his room. She said his cell phone could help her plan a party that would make her more popular in class. With it, even someone like her, who normally struggled to talk to others, could reach out to everyone without a problem. She said it was time to take action. She asked Kimito why he looked so down, but Kimito said it was not how she thought. Aika then asked what he thought of her plan. Kimito admitted it was not a bad idea, but he said it might be too difficult because she would need a lot of phones, and that was not something he could handle. Aika told him that if that was the case, then he needed to figure something out. Kimito replied that there was no place nearby where they could get that kind of stuff. That was when Hakuo spoke up, saying Kimito could get phones through her. She also had experience developing phones and even had plenty of samples in her lab. Aika got irritated seeing Hakuo sitting on Kimito's lap like that. Kimito said Hakuo simply refused to move. Aika pointed out that even though Hakuo looked the way she did, she was already in middle school. Aika tried to get Hakuo to sit on a cushion instead, but Hakuo just grabbed onto Kimito's arm. Kimito wondered why Aika looked so annoyed, but she denied it. Suddenly, Karen burst into the room and was surprised to see how close Hakuo was sitting next to Kimito. Kimito asked what Karen was doing there. Karen reminded him that, like she had said before, she belonged to him now. She would stay by his side for as long as possible, and the moment she felt ready to surpass him, she would challenge him again. Kimito said he understood her goal, but begged her not to take things too far. Karen was still upset about how Kimito had ended up putting something embarrassing in front of her during their fight. Kimito insisted he had not done anything like that. Aika tried to speak up, and that was when Kimito suddenly realized Aika was still in the room. Aika could not understand why Kimito always treated her so badly. Kimito said that Aika was a Sun Pure type who probably had a complicated, conflicted mindset. Aika insisted that she was not its Sun Pure, and she reminded him that it was time for their club activities. She told Kimito to ask Karen and Hakuo to head back. Kimito asked what was wrong with them hanging out together and why Aika disliked it so much. Aika suddenly raised her voice, almost blurting out that Kimito had been sitting way too close to them. She then stepped out of the room and saw one of the maids carrying a large box. When Kimino opened the box, it turned out to be filled with cell phones. Hakua had asked her maid to bring them. She explained that at the time, they could not connect to any phone lines or internet services, and she asked if she should set them up to access the internet. Kimino told her it was enough if the phones could connect to each other, and Hakua agreed to take care of it. Kimino asked Aika to choose whichever phone she liked. Before doing so, Aika thanked Hakua. Then Kimino asked what about Karen, but Karen said she was not interested in toys like that. Aika asked Kimino to take a picture of her using the phone. She was happy because her face looked really cute in the photo. Kimino asked if Hakua wanted him to take a picture of her too. Hakua said she wanted to take one together with him, and Aika also wanted to be in the photo as well. Kimino said there was no way the three of them would all fit in the frame. Kimino was about to ask Karen for help, but it turned out that Karen also wanted to join the photo. They all moved closer together so they could appear on the screen, but Aika started complaining because her body ended up touching Kimino. During lunch break at school, Reiko and the others invited Kimino to join them for a tea party. Reiko explained that it was not some big event, just a small gathering in her room. She looked a little nervous and said she did not mean anything by it, that it was just something they usually did. She added that it could be a nice opportunity to hang out. Kaya mentioned that although they often had tea parties like that, this time they were inviting Kimino as a special guest. Reiko quickly covered Kaya's mouth and then asked Kimino if he had any plans after school. Kimino said that he did not have anything important going on and agreed to join the tea party. Suddenly, Aika spoke up and reminded everyone that Kimino had plans with her after school. Reiko asked if there was something Aika wanted to talk about with Kimino. Aika seemed nervous and immediately pulled Kimino out of the classroom. She told him they had club activities later and asked if he had forgotten about it. Aika said she did not have time to just relax. Kimino was confused and asked what she meant by relaxing and said that to him her plan did not seem all that important. Aika then asked if he really wanted to go to Reiko's room that badly. She insisted that he go home with her right away since she needed time to get ready for what she had planned. Kimino agreed to go with her. Before leaving, Kimino apologized to Reiko for not being able to attend the tea party. Reiko told him not to worry about it and said she hoped his plans would go well. Kimino thanked her and left with Aika. Later, during the tea party in Reiko's room, Maya asked why Kimino did not show up. Reiko explained that he had something else going on. Maya wondered what kind of plan could have pulled him away and commented that Aika seemed a lot more open with Kimino. Reiko said she believed Aika had probably just asked Kimino for some advice. She figured that maybe Aika felt a bit overwhelmed being around all of them, especially since Kimino was still new to Seiken Academy. She added that Kimino was a great guy, so it made sense that Aika would want to talk to him. Kata mentioned that it seemed like Aika had been spending time in Kimino's room almost every day. She said it felt like they were getting a bit too close. A few days ago, Kata had gone to visit Kimino's room, but when she reached the door, she overheard Aika sounding really into something. That made her hesitate to go in. Lately, Aika had been hanging around Kimino's room late into the night. Meanwhile, Aika and Kimino were at their club meeting. Aika said she wanted to prepare some counter-style snacks like candy. Kimino brought up cheap snacks like yumiabo, which were easy to find at convenience stores. He mentioned that girls would usually buy those to eat in class. Aika liked the idea and decided to call it a commoner after-school snack party. Kimino agreed with the name. Aika looked happy and said it sounded like it would be a lot of fun. She hoped everyone would enjoy it. Back in Reiko's room, her friends were still talking about Kimino and Aika. Maya pointed out how close the two of them seemed in class, from the way Aika grabbed Kimino's hand to how they talked to each other. She said it felt like Aika was clearly going after Kimino behind everyone's backs and that it did not look like just a normal friendship. Kai even said that maybe the two of them were already dating. Maya got even more excited talking about it, especially since they were alone in the room together. Kai guessed they might have been kissing. At that point, Reiko suddenly raised her voice and told them to stop talking about it. Everyone was shocked by how upset she got. Reiko stood up and ran out of the room. The next day, Reiko did not come to school. Kai ended up crying. Kimino came over to check on them and asked what had actually happened. Meanwhile, Reiko was crying alone in her room. Not long after, Kimino came to see her and asked what was going on, but Reiko told him that she could not say anything. Kimino then asked if it had something to do with him. After hearing that, Reiko opened the door and said it was not like that. She then told Kimino about what happened the day before. She also explained that she had yelled at Kae and left the room without saying anything. It was the first time she had ever done something like that, and she did not know what she should do. Kimino offered to help her. When Kimino went to his room, he was surprised to see Aika there. Aika asked about Reiko and mentioned that she knew Kimito had just come from Reiko's room. Kimito asked how she knew that. Aika accidentally admitted that she got curious when Kimito left and decided to follow him. Kimito explained that Reiko was feeling really overwhelmed. Aika guessed that Kimito was probably thinking of a way to help her, and Kimito was confused about how Aika could know that. Aika said that was just the kind of person he was, and then asked if he had come up with any ideas. Kimito thought the simplest solution would be to bring in an outsider to talk things through, but since the whole class was involved in considering Reiko's situation, he figured it would be better to organize an event or something different that could boost everyone's spirits and help Reiko gain more confidence. He started thinking about something related to commoners that nobody at school knew about but could be used to patch things up, but he was not sure what could check all those boxes. Aika suggested that what Kimito was actually planning was an after-school commoner-style party. Kimito asked if that was not the idea Aika had wanted to do herself. Aika said it was fine because she thought there was no better idea than that anyway. Kimito told her she was actually a really kind person. Aika admitted that she had not really wanted to do it at first, but since it was her idea, she also wanted to be more popular in class and enjoy school life with everyone. Still, she could not stand seeing the class like that and did not want to leave Reiko alone. She said she would hate herself more if she did nothing. Kimito once again told her that she was a good person. He even offered to make her a snack, but instead, Aika bumped her forehead against his and called him an idiot. Kimito winced in pain and said he was starting to think she was not such a good person after all. After school, Kimito thanked the students who had gathered and told them they would be having a commoner-style after-school party. He explained that this was something that regular high school girls often did, and he wanted everyone there to try it out. Suddenly, Reiko showed up, dressed completely differently from usual. Her classmates could barely believe that the girl standing in front of them was Reiko. She kept acting playfully like a typical commoner girl. Kimito was genuinely impressed because Reiko seemed to be able to pull off anything perfectly. Kimito mentioned that earlier that day he had asked Reiko to dress like a fashionable girl from the commoner world. Girls dressed like that were usually seen as trendy. Everyone noticed that her hairstyle looked foreign and her makeup was bold and stylish. Reiko then pulled a phone out of her pocket and sent a message. Right after that, the sound of phones ringing filled the room. To their surprise, they each found a phone. Reiko asked them to press the message button, and it turned out to be an apology from her. She apologized for making everyone worry. She also specifically apologized to Kage for saying something hurtful. Kage said it was her fault too. Reiko asked Kage to take a selfie with her as a way to remember that they had made up. Then she explained to the class that phones could also be used to take pictures and send them through messages. She said that commoner girls usually took pictures like that with their friends and messaged them to each other. Reiko told everyone that she and Kage were friends. After that, Reiko invited the rest of the class to take photos with her too. After the event ended, Reiko thanked Kimito for helping her. In fact, she felt like no amount of gratitude would ever be enough to repay him. Kimito felt relieved that Reiko and Kage had made up. Reiko was incredibly happy that Kimito went through all that just for her. Kimito admitted that the idea had not been his in the first place. It was actually Aika's. He probably should have kept that a secret, but because it was Reiko, he decided to tell her anyway. He explained that Aika had really wanted to become friends with Reiko and her classmates, which was why she had originally come up with the event. But for Reiko's sake, Aika gave the idea to her instead. Kimito said that Aika was genuinely kind, which made him feel like he had to do something in return for her. Unexpectedly, what he said made Reiko upset. She ran out of the classroom and headed straight for Kimito's room. When she arrived, she opened the door, and to her surprise, Aika was already in Kimito's room. Out of nowhere, Reiko said she hated Aika. She claimed Kimito had told her everything and even called Aika an idiot. Aika was shocked and annoyed because if Reiko already knew everything, then she should have been thanking her instead. Reiko suddenly lashed out and went after Aika. Aika had no idea what the problem was. Reiko cornered her and repeated that she was being stupid. Aika called out to Kimito asking for help. Reiko was confused about why Aika and Kimito were calling each other by their real names, which only proved how close the two of them really were. Reiko blamed Aika, saying that if Aika had just come to her for advice, none of this would have happened. She was disappointed that Aika gave up and walked away over something so minor. Aika started getting irritated and pushed Reiko back. She told her that Reiko would never understand or even know how she really felt. Reiko then asked if Aika had any idea how much she had worried about her. She said all she could think about was what she was lacking. Reiko also explained that she had been defending Aika from all the people talking behind her back. But Aika fired back, saying she never asked for that. She accused Reiko of always looking down on others just because she could do everything. Reiko pushed her and insisted that was not true. She told Aika that she should have relied more on other people. Aika argued that she had already helped Reiko by letting her use her idea, but Reiko responded that she had never asked for that. After hearing that, Aika started to hate Reiko too. The two of them kept fighting, eventually shoving each other onto the bed. The absurdity of the thought snapped him out of it, and he quickly told them to stop fighting. Both girls yelled at him to shut up, and Aika threw a pillow at him, knocking him over. Once the fight had ended, Aika started playing a console game. Kimito tried to calm her down and encouraged her, saying that she would definitely be able to become a master of commoner culture. From the start, she had never really acted like a noble, especially not with the way she talked. Arika said she used to be like the other girls, but in 4th grade, she got really sick with a fever and passed out. When she woke up, her way of speaking had changed completely. She figured maybe she had lost her memory during that fever or something had happened to her. Still, she said she was fine with it, since she never really wanted to get close to anyone anyway. To her, Kimito's games and comics were fun enough. Unfortunately, she accidentally let it slip that she also enjoyed spending time with Kimito. Just then, Hakua and Karen came into Kimito's room. Kimito assumed they wanted to hang out and play games with him. Although Karen would not admit it, Hakua handed him a club application form. It turned out she wanted to join the Commoner Club. Reikado also asked to join the club. Kimito was confused. He did not understand why all of them suddenly wanted to be part of the Commoner Club. Reiko said it was for the sake of her future. Hakua mentioned that she wanted to be with Kimito. Karen claimed she did not want to be with him, but the circumstances left her no choice. Unfortunately, Aika rejected their requests, especially Reiko's. Kimito asked Arika not to act that way because honestly, Reiko just wanted to make up with her. But Reiko ended up saying that if Aika did not like it, maybe she should be the one to leave. Then, a little shyly, Reiko asked Kimito to start calling her by her real name from now on. Arika got irritated and said that Reiko already had her tea party group and was always hanging out with them anyway. Reiko replied that she also wanted to be friends with people in her class and in the club, and she thought that was totally normal. Arika asked if Reiko hated her, but Reiko said she had never hated anyone in her life and that she actually hoped Arika could be friends with her. Arika immediately felt like throwing up after hearing that. Reiko gently told her she could leave if she wanted to, but of course Arika refused. Karen, confused, wondered when Arika and Reiko had gotten so close like that. Suddenly, a pair of underwear landed on Kimito's head. Turns out, Hakua had been writing something on the window and had started taking her clothes off. Karen was shocked and called it ridiculous. She quickly grabbed her phone to take a picture, but then Miyuki suddenly barged in and got angry when she saw the chaos in Kimito's room. She grabbed a giant pair of scissors and seemed like she was about to do something drastic to Kimito. Seeing that, Kimito quickly played a video of muscular guys and even said that he really wanted to be surrounded by their muscles. Hakua, Karen, Arika, and Reiko were all completely shocked when they heard that. Miyuki quickly apologized for doubting Kimito and said that he must be a very unique guy who only gets excited by super buff men. Kimito was incredibly embarrassed that Miyuki said that right in front of his friends. Misaki was a radio host, and that day she had a broadcast with Eri, a high school idol who also worked as a voice actress. It was the 3rd time Eri had been on the show with her, and Misaki had even come up with a special greeting just for Eri. During the broadcast, Eri seemed cheerful and friendly. But after the show, while they were in the restroom, Eri was clearly upset with Misaki. She was angry that Misaki had called her things like money-making voice or sweet cake. To Eri, those kinds of comments were rude and annoying, and she felt Misaki should have known better than to say that on air. Right then, Eri got a message from Kimito. He told her that he was doing fine, that he had made some new friends, and that she did not need to worry about him. The thing was, Eri had not been worried about Kimito at all. The next morning, Kimito woke up and suddenly found Hakua lying next to him. She was completely naked. As Hakua started to wake up, Kimito asked if she wanted to play with him. She nodded, so Kimito helped her get dressed. After that, Kimito wanted to cook something for her, but all he could find was potatoes. He offered her some options: steamed potatoes, fried potatoes, or potato cakes. Hakua asked what potato cakes were, and Kimito explained that they were like rice cakes, but made from mashed potatoes. He said he would shape the mashed potatoes into patties and fry them in a pan, and that they tasted pretty good. Hakua seemed interested, and Kimito asked if she was okay with eating his cooking, since she usually followed a strict eating schedule. Hakua told him that as long as he was the one cooking, she would eat it. Kimito said he would make something tasty for her. While he was preparing the mashed potatoes, Hakuo asked if there was anything she could help with. Kimido asked her to roll the potato mixture into little balls and reminded her to wash her hands first. After she did, he helped her put on an apron. He told her she looked cute in it, and Hakuo smiled at the compliment. As they worked, Hakuo compared her potato balls to Kimido's. His were all the same size, while hers were uneven. While they were still having fun making them, a pair of panties suddenly landed on Kimido's head. It turned out Hakuo had started scribbling formulas again, while absent-mindedly taking off her clothes, but this time she had not taken off the apron. Soon the potato cakes were ready. Hakuo tried them right away and said they tasted good. After snacking, Hakuo picked up a small book and started reading. One riddle in the book asked, "What closes when you pass through it, but stays open if you do not?" The answer was a railroad crossing. Kimido was surprised and asked if Hakuo did not know what riddles were. She asked him what a riddle was. Kimido then asked if she remembered going to kindergarten or grade school, but Hakuo said she could not remember anything from kindergarten. When he asked what she used to do in grade school, she replied that she had made ergodic hypotheses, built cargo-carrying robots, and designed a bunch of CPU circuits. So Kimido decided to try asking her a riddle himself. He said, if a father frog goes quack quack and a mother frog goes caro caro, then what sound does a baby frog make? Hakuo answered seriously, saying that each species makes a different sound and that there are 124 frog species. Kimido was a little stunned by her reply. The actual answer was that baby frogs are tadpoles and do not make any sound at all. Kimido laughed and said she was not very good at riddles. Hakuo asked him to give her another one. Kimido said, when a car goes around a corner, this something always drops. Hakuo answered gasoline, but Kimido pointed out that gasoline does not exactly get dropped. Then she guessed spare parts, which Kimido thought sounded kind of scary. He was about to give her the real answer, but Hakuo said she wanted to think a bit longer. After a while, she answered tire molecules. Kimido replied that if that were the case, then cars would drop those even on a straight road. The correct answer was speed. He laughed again and teased her about not getting the answer. Hakuo wanted to try one more, but unfortunately, Kimido had run out of ideas. Not long after, Sakimura came to pick up Hakuo, but Hakuo said she wanted to stay with Kimido a little longer. Kimido told her they could hang out again tomorrow, and Hakuo agreed. He walked her back to her room, and just before she went in, Kimido noticed a boy doll lying on her bed. Hakuo looked embarrassed and quickly stepped inside and shut the door. At that time, Reiko was hanging out in her room with Aina and Karen. They were chatting about how close Kimido and Hakuo had gotten, and Reiko asked Aika what she thought about it. According to Aika, it had clearly gone too far. At first, she had not really paid it much attention, but lately things had been out of hand. Reiko mentioned that while they were having cake, Hakuo had eaten directly from Kimido's hand. Reiko thought that was completely unfair, and just watching it made her feel uneasy. Both Arika and Reiko were clearly annoyed by how Hakuo was acting around Kimido. Karen even admitted that she was jealous and felt like she wanted to take drastic action, but Reiko reminded her not to go overboard. Arika concluded that the real problem was Kimido, especially since every time he handed out candy, he smiled like he was genuinely enjoying it, as if he were some kind of personal servant. Reiko even wondered if she should take her clothes off too. Karen said they needed to free Hakuo from Kimido's hands, because if they let things go on like this, Kimido would probably make Hakuo do all kinds of things, and that would be completely unacceptable. Arika agreed, saying it was obviously something they needed to stop. Reiko agreed too and said the first step was to talk to Hakuo directly. Reiko, Arika, and Karen waited for Hakuo in Kimido's room, knowing that she usually showed up the same time every day. And just as expected, Hakuo showed up not long after and opened the door. She looked around the room trying to find Kimido. Reiko told her that Kimido was busy with something and would not be coming home that day. Hearing that, Hakuo immediately turned to leave, but Karen quickly stopped her. Erika pointed out that there was nothing wrong with hanging out once in a while without Kimido. Reiko added that spending time with just the girls could be fun too, and she said she wanted to spend time with Hakuo as well. Then Reiko gently pulled Hakuo over to sit with them. Hakuo stayed quiet and kept reading her book, and the room fell silent. Trying to lighten the mood, Reiko invited everyone to have some tea together. She served tea and brought out some cakes to share, but Hakuo kept her eyes on her book and stayed silent. Reiko then offered Hakuo some of the cakes she had prepared, but Hakuo did not respond at all. Reiko asked Aika and Karen why they thought Hakuo would not eat them, even though she had prepared them just like usual. Aika guessed maybe Hakuo just was not hungry, but Karen said that was not the issue. She explained that Hakuo would only eat if someone fed her by hand. Otherwise, she would refuse. Karen even tried feeding Hakua herself, but surprisingly, Hakua still refused even though she usually accepted food that way. With no other option, Karen decided to go all out and pretend to be Kimito. She announced that she was Kimito. Then she tried feeding the cake to Hakua again, but even then, Hakua would not eat it. There was food lined up right in front of Hakua, but she had no interest in any of it. Reiko was at a loss for what to do, so she called her maid, Sumire, and asked her to bring food that matched Hakua's usual eating schedule. A little later, Reiko served tuna sushi rolls, and right away, Hakua started eating. Arika finally understood Hakua would only eat food that was planned and scheduled. Just as they were about to start talking to her, Hakua suddenly began writing out a formula and looked like she was about to take off her underwear. Reiko and Aika immediately stepped in to stop her. Karen said it was completely ridiculous, but she had to admit she was kind of enjoying the chaos. After that, Hakua fell asleep. Reiko could not believe that Kimito went through all of that every single day. According to Ayaka, Hakua was easier to manage whenever she was with Kimito. Reiko then asked if that meant Hakua had closed herself off to the rest of them. Not long after, Sakamori showed up to pick up Hakua. Reiko gently woke her up, and once she was awake, Sakamori invited her to return to her room. Hakua noticed that Kimito was not there and said there were only friends in the room. Hearing that, Aika smiled. Before leaving, Hakua said in a loud voice that the daddy frog's sound was quack quack, the mommy frog's sound was kero kero, and then she asked what sound the baby frog made. Reiko realized it was a riddle. Karen said Hakua was absolutely adorable. Arika responded by saying that baby frogs were tadpoles, so they did not make any sounds. Hakua was surprised that Aika could figure it out. Meanwhile, Kimito was playing a game voiced by Eri, something he had not done in a long time. The game character was named Marika. She was upset that Kimito had left his girlfriend, her, for an entire month. Kimito apologized, but Marika assumed that he hated her now. The game was called Marika-tan Pero Pero. Marika asked Kimito how he felt about her. He told her that he really liked her. Marika asked him to say it again, claiming she had not heard it the first time. Just then, Erika opened the door to his room and asked what he was doing. Kimito explained that he was playing a game and that the woman on his phone was his girlfriend in the game world. Erika was honestly grossed out. Kimito was not playing because he liked the game itself, but because the voice actress was someone he knew. Erika did not really understand what he meant by that. Kimito explained that when the game character spoke, the voice was actually someone he personally knew. Erika was really curious and wanted to hear the character's voice for herself. Kimito told her to try chatting with the game character. Marika and Aika introduced themselves. Aika really enjoyed the conversation with the game character. Not long after, an announcement came from the intercom calling Kimito to the principal's office. He quickly left the room. Marika then asked Aika to be her friend, and Aika happily agreed, even jokingly saying, "Until death do us part." Suddenly, Reiko walked into Kimito's room and was surprised to see what Aika was doing. Aika explained that she was making friends. She told Reiko that if she was looking for Kimito, he was not there and neither were Hakua and Karen. Reiko stepped into the room and said she wanted to read a book. Aika found it odd because Reiko usually did not like being alone with her. Out of the blue, Reiko asked why there were always women on the covers of Kimito's books. Aika guessed maybe it was because the female character was the protagonist. Reiko found it strange considering the books were meant for male readers, but every volume had a woman on the cover. Aika said she had no idea and suggested that Reiko go back to her own room to read. Reiko then asked why Aika was reading in Kimito's room and why she was still lying on his bed, since reading while lying down was a bad habit. Aika got annoyed and said Reiko was being way too picky. Then she moved to sit on the floor. Reiko quickly pointed out that Aika's underwear was visible, which made Aika immediately cover herself and call Reiko a pervert. Reiko told her she was the one being inappropriate, acting too relaxed just because Kimito was not around. Aika got annoyed because Reiko was being too noisy, so she went back to her room. Reiko, on purpose, mentioned that when Kimito returned, it would be just the two of them. Hearing that, Aika changed her mind about going back to her room and instead grabbed a book from the shelf. Reiko asked what book Aika had picked up, but Aika told her to stay away. It turned out the book Aika grabbed had a cover featuring a woman. Reiko was surprised since most of Kimito's books were like that. Aika guessed that maybe Kimito was kind of pervy. Reiko immediately scolded her, saying that to her, Kimito was a real gentleman. Aika replied that maybe he was a real gentleman and a pervy one. Reiko did not argue. She believed Kimito was definitely into girls. At the time, Reiko was reading a comic and she really liked one of the characters. She felt the way the character talked and behaved was kind of unusual, But when it came to solving problems, she gave it her all and cared more about others than herself. Arika, on the other hand, preferred the main character. Reiko did not think the character was anything special, which Arika disagreed with. She thought the character was kind and well-liked by everyone. Arika opened Kimito's fridge looking for snacks, and she and Reiko found a bottle of some drink they could not identify. To Reiko, it looked like juice, or maybe something commoners would drink. Arika said she wanted to try it, and Reiko said she did too, but Arika would not let her. She even said that if it were any other girl, she would have shared, but not with Reiko. Reiko gave up and walked away. Suddenly, Arika called out and asked Reiko to grab some glasses, since she decided to share it after all. Reiko smiled, clearly excited to try it. But the moment they tasted it, they immediately spit it out. Since her clothes got dirty, Arika started taking them off and Reiko scolded her. Arika explained she was taking them off so they would not stick to her. Reiko ended up taking her clothes off too. When she saw Arika's clothes just lying there, Reiko reminded her to fold them properly. She felt like Arika lacked basic manners, especially since she was a student at Seikan Academy. Reiko tried to make Arika hand over her clothes so she could fold them herself, but she slipped and fell right on top of Arika. Reiko's body landed on Arika, making it hard for her to breathe. Reiko quickly apologized, but Arika told her to get that gross thing off her face. Reiko got offended when she realized Arika was referring to her chest. They kept bickering back and forth until they realized Kimito was standing there, watching them. He noticed a comic book near them that had a romance story between two girls, and he immediately apologized for interrupting. Both girls shouted, trying to explain that he completely misunderstood what was going on. The principal of Seikan Sayuri called Kimito into her office to inform him that the construction for the school trip destination had been completed and that tomorrow, he and his friends would be visiting the place. Miyuki explained that the school had built an amusement park to introduce commoner culture to the noble students, and it had been named the Commoner Park. Sayuri wanted Kimito to help the students at the Commoner Park because, according to her, ever since Kimito arrived at Seikan, the atmosphere at school had become much livelier. Reports even stated that there had been no negative impacts on the students despite their initial concerns. Sayuri also admitted that having a male student around had made the girls more spirited. Kimito was surprised to hear this. Miyuki mentioned that although Sayuri called Kimito a man, in reality he was just a pervert who loved muscular men. Kimito immediately protested being labeled that way. Miyuki asked if she had said anything wrong and added that she would even castrate Kimito right then and there for the girls' safety. Hearing that, Kimito quickly declared that his dream was to become a muscular man covered in oil. The next day, Reiko confessed that she was curious about what the Commoner Park would be like and that she could not wait to get there. Kai asked Reiko if they had arrived, and Maya urged Reiko to get off the bus quickly. Kimito told Aika that the school trip was the time for the Commoner Club he had established to shine, meaning it was Aika's stage. Kimito believed that if Aika performed the way she had practiced, she would be just fine, and he kept cheering her on. The students then entered the Commoner Park. Before entering, they were briefed that the park had been built so they could experience the life of commoners, and they were encouraged to enjoy it fully. A large lift carried them down into the Commoner Park. Kimito was confused because the students did not seem to feel anything special when passing through the gate. He wondered what exactly they found so impressive. Inside the park, they were shown a model of a town near a train station. All the students were thrilled, and Mizuho nearly fainted from excitement upon seeing the Commoner Park. It turned out that it was the first time the students had ever seen traffic lights and crosswalks. They immediately tried to cross the street themselves, and soon after, all the students scattered around to explore the park. Kimito asked Aika if she was having fun visiting the park, and Aika nodded. Suddenly, a pile of tissues fell on Kimito. Miyuki explained that it was a tissue distribution, a common practice near train stations. Miyuki then introduced them to one of the most iconic attractions for commoners, a restaurant. As soon as they arrived, the restaurant staff welcomed them. Miyuki instructed them to place their orders at the counter, where the menu was displayed for them to choose from. They had to tell the staff what they wanted to order. Reigo asked if they could sit down right after ordering. Miyuki explained that they needed to wait for their food there, which shocked the students because it meant they had to keep standing. To make it even more surprising, Miyuki explained that at commoner restaurants, they had to carry their own food to the table, and this practice was called self-service. The students were amazed, and Reiko said it would be a tough lesson for them. All the students agreed that commoners were really impressive. Reiko even said she was willing to wait an hour or two, and Maya agreed as well. However, Miyuki pointed out that they would not need to wait that long because the restaurant was a fast food place famous for its quick service. Their orders would be ready in just 1 or 2 minutes. They were all shocked to hear that. They could not even imagine how it was possible to serve food that quickly, and they started to wonder what kind of creatures commoners actually were. Miyuki then told them to go ahead and place their orders. Kimito reminded Aika that it was time for her to do it since he had already taught her how to order earlier. She just needed to ask for a teriyaki burger set and a cola zero. Kimito encouraged Aika to actually try it out, asking her to step up to the counter and place her order. Kimito noticed that Aika looked nervous, which surprised him. Then, unexpectedly, Reiko confidently stepped forward to the counter to order. The cashier greeted her and asked if she would be dining in. Reiko replied that she would not be eating in, but at a table. Miyuki quickly explained that the cashier meant whether she wanted to eat at the restaurant or take the food to go. Reiko started thinking that if it was packed to go, it would be like a snack for tea time. The cashier then showed her the menu. Kimito guessed that Reiko probably did not understand it, since even he sometimes got confused about what to order. Reiko stood there silently, looking a little lost. Seeing that, Kimito told Aika it was her chance to step in, but Aika stayed frozen. So Kimito walked up to the counter himself and mentioned that the most popular item was the teriyaki burger set. Reiko decided to order the teriyaki burger set. The cashier then asked what drink she would like. Kimito suggested ordering iced tea and Reiko agreed. After that, the cashier asked her to wait at the counter for her order. Reiko thanked Kimito and told him he was amazing. Once everyone had gotten their food, Reiko invited everyone to start eating together. Kimito found it strange that even at a time like that, Aika chose to sit by herself. Kimito took a bite of the burger and was stunned by how delicious it was. Everything he had eaten before now seemed like garbage in comparison. Kimito truly felt like he was experiencing heavenly harmony in his mouth. Kimito shouted that it was wrong to even call this burger Max. His friends asked him what was going on with him. Kimito admitted that while the burger was insanely good, the simple and balanced flavor of a classic cheeseburger and the unique taste that could only be found in the Dika Max made it special in a different way. He even started wondering how much the burger actually cost, feeling like it would be strange if it was only a few hundred yen. Everyone was shocked, seeing how seriously angry Kimito looked, and they had no idea why he was so worked up. Meanwhile, Sakimori chased after Hakua, who was walking toward Kimito's room. Sakimori asked if Hakua was planning to play with Kimito, and Hakua nodded. Sakimori explained that unfortunately, Kimito had gone out with the others. They were visiting a public park together. Hearing this, Hakua just stayed silent. After visiting a fast food restaurant, the students headed to a game center. They looked amazed by the huge variety of games available there. Reiko told Kimito that she was really happy to come to the game center. Meanwhile, Aika was playing a dance game. According to Kimito, Aika was really good at dance games, but the other girls seemed more interested in the claw machines and the cute animals. Aika sat quietly by herself, so Kimito suggested that she just wait because the others would probably come over soon. Suddenly, the twin sisters showed up and asked Aika for help playing a game. However, Aika told them to leave because she wanted to go buy some juice. Kimito then stepped in and helped the twins with the claw machine. After winning a prize, Kimito gave the stuffed animal to them, and they thanked him happily. Out of nowhere, another girl asked Kimito to teach her too. After she successfully got a stuffed animal, she thanked Kimito warmly. To his surprise, more students lined up because they also wanted to be taught by Kimito. Even Reiko, who had already played and won earlier, asked for his help. Kimito and the others then moved to the dance game area. He looked around, wondering where Aika had gone since she had been there earlier. Kaya asked what the game in front of them was called. Kimito explained that it was a game where players had to dance along with the music. He asked if they wanted to give it a try and decided to demonstrate how it worked. Kimito danced according to the moves shown on the screen, impressing everyone with how well he could play. Kimito mentioned that the game could be played with 2 people. 2 students tried playing together, but they struggled and even ended up bumping into each other. Suddenly, Aika appeared and immediately jumped into dance. She told them they needed to focus on the instructions shown on the screen. Aika danced while giving live instructions, helping her partner follow along easily. Aika and her partner managed to clear the game perfectly, earning admiration from everyone else. Aika got so excited that she did not even realize she had started chatting with her partner, something she normally tried to avoid. The others were so impressed that they started asking Aika to teach them too. Seeing their enthusiasm, Aika felt truly happy, thinking that her dream of becoming popular might finally come true. After they had their fill of games, they went to Starbucks to enjoy some coffee. Aika smoothly recited a complicated drink order. Her friends were amazed and praised Aika, saying she was incredible. They even started relying on her because she looked so confident. Aika was absolutely thrilled to hear their compliments. The group joked about how commoners needed to cast complicated spells just to order coffee. They were not even sure if they could manage it themselves. Aika explained that the order she said earlier was an advanced one and reassured them that they could start with something simpler, like a hot or iced latte. Seeing how close Aika and the others were becoming, Reiko grew noticeably gloomy. Even when Aika came over to join them, Reiko still seemed down. At one point, the group asked Aika what the small hole on the coffee cup lid was for. They wondered if it was meant for drinking. Aika was not sure either, but she wanted to show them how to drink through it. Aika burned her mouth on the hot coffee, making her cry out in pain. Reiko immediately worried about her, but Aika quickly insisted that she was fine even though she had clearly been hurt. Out of nowhere, Kamito asked if they ever used their phones. Since they met each other every day, they hardly ever used them. Kamito then asked if they rarely sent messages to each other. They explained that they liked to keep it a secret from their other friends, so they usually only did it right before going to bed. Curious, Kamito asked about Aika. Aika said that she never did that, mostly because she had never been friends with anyone in her class before. Hearing that, the two girls offered to exchange emails with her. Aika looked a little confused, but Kamito encouraged her to accept them as her friends. Aika looked really happy and friendly. After that, everyone started competing to exchange emails with her. Seeing Aika smile so brightly made Kamito feel happy too, though Reiko looked a little down. Meanwhile, Hakuo was completely absorbed in playing with dolls and Sakamori asked what she was up to. Aika started making a lot of friends after she opened up during the dance game. Back then, the students were still in the commoner's garden and they visited a fashion center. Aika explained to them that the tears in the jeans were not because they were damaged, but because that was the design. Kamito figured that with things going this well, there should not be any problems. That was when he noticed Karen holding a t-shirt with a star graphic. It looked like she really wanted to wear it. She stood in front of the mirror, holding the shirt close to her body. When she put it back on the shelf, she looked a little confused because the fold was different from the rest. Kamito told her to leave it alone since a store clerk would take care of it anyway. Suddenly, Karen told Kamito not to get the wrong idea. She said she was not interested in items like that and just happened to pass by. She insisted it was not her style and that she usually never went near something that's silly. Kamito encouraged her to give it a try and asked if she actually liked the shirt. Kamito reminded her that he had already defeated her before without even lifting a finger. Just as he was about to give the command, Karen suddenly started taking her clothes off. She told Kamito he could do whatever he wanted with her until he was satisfied. Kamito quickly told her to just put on the shirt. Karen was thrilled as she walked into the fitting room. Not long after, she said it was pointless because she looked ridiculous in it. Kamito told her it was cute, so it should be fine. Karen said she did not want to be seen wearing something like that, which only made Kamito more curious. When Karen pulled the curtain aside, Kamito said the outfit looked great on her, but then he realized how much of her thighs were showing. Kamito had known from the start that Karen had a curvy figure, and he liked that about her. But the tiny hot pants made her curves stand out even more. Karen said she was ready to be laughed at because she knew it was embarrassing, especially since her legs were so thick. Kamito told her legs were not thick at all, but actually perfect and amazing. He asked her not to blame herself too much because even if the whole world was against her, he would still like her just the same. Hearing it made Karen emotional. Kamito asked her to keep wearing the outfit and to show it to him because he wanted her to wear it everywhere, all the time. Out of nowhere, Karen hit him on the head and shouted that he had to take responsibility for what he had said. Later that night, Aika was in a good mood because she got messages from several friends on her phone. Reiko, who was with her, said that messaging each other like that sounded fun. Aika apologized for troubling Reiko since they were sharing a room, but Reiko did not seem to mind. Aika said that at first, they used to hate each other and now they were sharing a room. Aika added that they were still enemies and Reiko agreed, saying she really hated Aika. Aika was confused about why Reiko looked so upset, but Reiko told her she was not mad at her. Aika brought up the email she had sent to everyone and asked Reiko to take a look at it. Reiko wondered why Aika did not just ask Kamito for help instead. But no matter what, Aika really wanted Reiko to read it because the email was important. It explained why she had been avoiding everyone all this time. Reiko asked why Aika was asking her specifically. It turned out that it was because Reiko was the most popular girl in class. Even if she could be a bit annoying, that was just the truth. Aika said Reiko seemed to really understand how people felt and always knew what to do. The way Reiko spoke and helped others was something Aika admired, which was why she wanted Reiko's opinion. Maybe Reiko hated her, but Aika felt like she had no one else she could rely on, so she sincerely asked for her help. Hearing all that, Reiko finally agreed, and Aika was clearly happy about it. When Reiko read the message, she said it was way too long. From start to finish, she felt like it never got to the point. The apology at the beginning dragged on, and if Kimito read it, he would probably find it too heavy. Reiko told her to come up with something simpler and pointed out the parts that should be cut out. After Aika shortened the message, she showed it to Reiko again. The message now explained that the reason she had been avoiding everyone until then was because she always spoke her mind, and one time it ended up hurting a friend. Ever since, she had kept her distance from people because she was afraid it would happen again. But the truth was, she really wanted to be friends with everyone. She also apologized for how she had been acting and said that from now on, she wanted to get along with everyone. Aika asked Reiko if the message was good enough now, but Reiko still thought it was a bit too long. According to Reiko, it did not need to be that wordy, especially since they were all already friends. Aika then sent the message to everyone in their class. She thanked Reiko because thanks to her, Aika was finally able to connect with her classmates. Now she would have lots of friends. The next morning, Miyuki woke Kimito up like usual, saying she wished he would never wake up again. Kimito was puzzled because Miyuki had always acted that way, but he started to wonder if she really disliked him. Still, Miyuki always did her job as his maid flawlessly. Suddenly, as if she could read his mind, Miyuki said that being a professional was something she took pride in. She added that someone like Kimito, who only had 5 neurons, was easy to read. Kimito asked if someone with just 5 neurons was supposed to be impressive, and Miyuki said yes. That left Kimito wondering what Miyuki really thought of him. That morning at the school restaurant, the students were having breakfast together. Arika was about to call out to Reiko, but her 2 friends invited her to eat with them. Around that time, Kimito saw Aika being invited to join a tea party after school by her classmates. He was glad to see that she had finally made some friends. Reiko walked over to Kimito and invited him to eat with her. After breakfast, Kimito ran into Aika in front of the elevator. He said he was happy that she had made friends with everyone. Aika told him she was happy too because she had finally found her courage. Kimito said she had worked really hard, and Aika said that once she gave it a try, it actually felt easy. Kimito told her not to get too full of herself, but Aika said it was all thanks to him and thanked him. Kimito replied that the Commoner Club was now officially over. It was clear now that the club's true purpose had been to help Aika become more popular. From that day on, she would be joining her classmates for tea after school and joining a normal club. In other words, she had finally come out of her shell. At that moment, the elevator opened and they went their separate ways. At that moment, Kimito was enjoying a relaxing soak in the hot spring by himself. Suddenly, Aika showed up at the bath, and they both screamed in surprise. Kimito told her that the girls' bath time was supposed to be yesterday, but Aika said that everyone had agreed to bathe again in the same place. Not long after, Aika's friends arrived and apologized for making her wait so long. While that was happening, Kimito dove underwater and hid behind Aika's legs. Kimito tried to hold his breath, but when he could not take it anymore, he came up for air. Right then, Aika made a noise to keep her friends from getting suspicious. One of them asked if something was wrong, and Aika pretended she was just enjoying the hot bath. Kimito dove underwater again. He could feel the warm towel covering Aika's backside. Even though the towel was small, the sensation made him a little too excited. Aika's friends pointed out that her face was turning red. Aika almost blurted out that Kimito was there, but Kimito quickly covered her mouth with his hand. He started to panic, knowing that if he slipped up even a little, Aika would probably tell them everything. One of the girls grew suspicious, but they brushed it off, thinking maybe they had just imagined it. One of them asked what was going on with Kimito since Aika had mentioned his name earlier. Aika replied that it was nothing. Her friends assumed that she and Kimito were pretty close already, and they admitted feeling a little jealous. They were curious about what kind of relationship the two of them had. But Aika said that there was nothing going on between her and Kimito, and from now on, maybe things would not be the same as before. She looked a bit down, which made her friends ask what was really going on. Aika said she was fine, even though she clearly did not look it. Meanwhile, Kimito was struggling to hold his breath any longer. He knew he had to do something. Out of desperation, he suddenly reached up and grabbed one of Aika's friends. The girl assumed Arika had done it and told her that her joke had gone way too far. Arika apologized. She knew right away that it was Kimito's doing and elbowed him hard in the head. At that point, Kimito started to lose consciousness. Arika's friends eventually left the bath and walked away. Arika panicked when she realized Kimito had passed out. She quickly pulled him up and was about to give him mouth-to-mouth. She tried to convince herself that it was not really a kiss and that their lips would not actually touch. She went for it, but the first attempt did not work. When she tried again, her friends suddenly returned to the bath and caught her in the middle of it, right as she was giving Kimito mouth-to-mouth. They were shocked, and Arika panicked when she realized they had seen her. Without thinking, she said that Kimito's lips were really soft and felt kind of nice. The next morning, Miyuki woke Kimito up as usual, saying she really wished he would never wake up again. When Kimito opened his eyes, he wondered if he had passed out from spending too much time in the hot spring the day before. Miyuki reminded him that the students were supposed to gather in the lobby at 10 o'clock and that he only had 20 minutes left. She told him to hurry and get ready. Strangely, the other students were glaring at him with judgmental looks. He walked over to Arika and asked what was going on. Arika said it was nothing, but Kimito was sure something had happened because everyone kept staring at him. Soon after, the students began to leave the lobby. Still confused, Kimito asked Arika again what was going on. Arika finally told him that the other students thought they were dating. Kimito was confused about how they could have gotten that idea. Before he could even figure out what had happened, Karen stormed over, called him a liar, and punched him hard. She said she really hated him. That afternoon, Arika told Reiko, Hakuya, and Karen everything about what really happened between her and Kimito. Reiko asked if that meant Arika and Kimito had not kissed. Arika confirmed that they had not, which made Reiko feel relieved. She said they needed to clear up the misunderstanding as soon as possible, and she was even willing to help. In her opinion, they had to act fast by sending a message to everyone in their class. As soon as Kimito arrived, Hakuya ran up to him and gave him a hug. Arika then asked Reiko to give her a little more time, and Reiko agreed. Reiko added that if that was the case, next time she would have to be paired up with Arika again. Arika was confused as to why Reiko seemed so happy about that, but Reiko quickly denied feeling happy at all. Arika started wondering just how much Reiko hated her, since she looked so cheerful in that kind of situation. Hearing that, Reiko tried to deny it. Arika then said that just yesterday, she had thought Reiko might actually be a good person, but now she had to admit she really disliked her. Not wanting to back down, Reiko said she disliked Arika too. Watching the two of them go back and forth like that, Kimito could not help but smile. Kimito told Arika about a fortune-telling app on his smartphone. Curious, Arika asked him to show it to her. When the app started up, a voice played that sounded just like Marika's, so Arika thought it was her. But Kimito explained that it was not Marika, only the same voice actor. The fortune was based on the moon's movements. According to the result, many people said that Arika had a thin mental wall, meaning she was too honest and easily hurt by small things. That was why she often craved attention from those around her. Arika said the reading was spot on. She was surprised that just her birth date could reveal so much, and she praised the fortune-telling methods of commoners for being impressive. Kimito pointed out that the reading also included a lucky color. As soon as she found out, Arika dressed entirely in green to match her lucky color. She even covered her face with green to make sure it had the full effect. He handed her some soybeans and told her to dance while shouting, "Beans, beans," since it was a traditional dance among commoners to celebrate the change of seasons. Arika said that nobles also used beans in their seasonal rituals. Kimito admitted it was not quite the time for a seasonal shift, but he was confident that at least half her luck would come if she did it, so she had to go through with it. Arika asked if she was supposed to use roasted beans, but Kimito insisted that soybeans were important too. He encouraged her to dance with the luck in her hands. Arika began dancing right away, yelling, "Beans, beans." Kimito complimented her and said it was time to finish it with a Gets pose. Arika danced again and wrapped it up with that pose just as Reiko, Hakuya, and Karen entered the classroom. Reiko asked who was hiding behind the green outfit. Kimito explained the fortune app to Reiko, Hakuya, and Karen. Then it was Reiko's turn to hear her fortune. It said that thanks to her sharp observation and analytical skills, she would do well in management. The reading also revealed that Reiko enjoyed being around others and was the type of person who never gave up on love. Reiko was impressed. It felt incredibly accurate. Arika agreed, saying that commoner fortune-telling was really on point. Next was Hakuya. Her fortune said her passion and desires were in balance, and she only needed to improve how she managed the two. It also said she would be well suited to becoming either a scientist or an artist. Reiko commented that the fortune-telling of commoners was truly amazing, like a glimpse into the future. Kimido added that it was true, Hakuya really did fit the image of a scientist at their school. Suddenly, Karen called it all ridiculous and asked what kind of reading the app could possibly give her. She was sure something that silly could never figure her out. Kimido asked if she wanted her fortune read too. Karen brushed it off, saying it would probably be something about martial arts. Maybe something about her becoming a great warrior or someone like Miyamoto Musashi. But Kimido told her that kind of result did not exist. Instead, the app said that Karen was actually very lonely, the type of person who constantly worried about things around her, made lots of careless mistakes, and often messed things up. But her smile made people forgive her quickly. When it came to love, she needed to be a little more patient. Her biggest strength was her natural charm. After hearing it, Karen claimed the app must have gotten it wrong. But Kimido said it was almost entirely true. Karen assumed that because Kimido was the one using the app, it gave her a bad result. While going through the app, Karen suddenly noticed a feature that showed compatibility between people. Reiko suggested they use it to help the Commoner Club function better by seeing how compatible everyone was. Since the compatibility feature only worked between male and female pairs, they had no choice but to test it using Kimido as the match. Everyone agreed to try it. Kimido was surprised at how in sync his friends were when it came to things like this. He figured it was probably fine since it was just a game. Reiko asked Kimido to go ahead and start. Kimido said he would begin by checking his compatibility with Reiko first. Hearing that made Reiko nervous, so she suggested letting Aika go first instead, since her name came first alphabetically. Not long after, the results showed up, complete with scores. Reiko, Arika, Karen, and Hakuya eagerly asked Kimido to reveal the results. Arika and Kimido got a score of 80 points. According to the result, Kimido was initially scared when he first met Arika, but over time they ended up falling in love. It said the two of them would make a great couple. Arika was overjoyed when she heard that, but she quickly covered her mouth and rushed out of Kimido's room. She came back a moment later and admitted that at first she thought the result was just about her luck in general, but it turned out it was about her compatibility with Kimido. After that, Reiko asked to get her result too, since her last name, Arisugawa, should have come first alphabetically. Arika said she hoped Reiko would get a good score, but she also thought it might be tough to beat an 80, especially since that was her own score. Reiko urged Kimido to hurry and show the result. To everyone's surprise, Reiko scored 90 points. The result said that Reiko and Kimido were highly compatible for marriage, and if they ended up together, Reiko would live a happy life after getting married. Reiko was thrilled. She never expected to get 90 points and be told she would make a great match for Kimido. Arika was not happy about it. She was convinced something must have gone wrong, or maybe Kimido had entered the wrong information. Reiko said she was just grateful that both she and Aika got high scores, and honestly, she was really happy. Then she teased Aika for only getting 80 points. Next up was Hakuya. Kimido was actually really curious to see how compatible he was with her. After a short wait, the score appeared. Hakuya got 50 points. The result said that the score was neither good nor bad. It also mentioned that Hakuya tended to misunderstand things easily, so a relationship with her would take more effort and understanding. The result made things a little awkward between Kimido and his friends. To ease the mood, Kimido reminded them that the compatibility test was just a fortune-telling game, and he invited everyone to have some tea together. Reiko asked Hakuya if she needed her to bring some new snacks, and Aika immediately offered to go get them. Kimido was surprised because he had assumed the result would not affect Hakuya at all. He then asked Karen if she wanted to try the compatibility test too. Karen said it would not be fair if she were the only one who did not do it, but Kimido told her that if she did not want to, she should not feel pressured. Not long after, Karen and Kimido's compatibility score came out 0 points. According to the result, if Karen and Kimido ended up together, Kimido would die. Kimido was shocked, and Karen was so upset that she actually pulled out her katana and pointed it at him. Kimido admitted that the result might be spot on, judging by how Karen was reacting. Karen said she did not care. She thought their compatibility did not need a test to prove it. She already knew it would be terrible.